What's up everybody? Welcome to the Phase Reviews YouTube channel. My name is Jordan. If you are new here, thank you for joining us. And if you are a subscriber, welcome back as always. Speaking of subscribers, you may have noticed I'm not in my normal office space, and that's because of what I have on the review table today. This is the Mackie DRM18S, and as you can probably tell, it is an absolute beast of a powered subwoofer, an 18-inch subwoofer, the flagship model in Mackie's portable speaker line. And today I'm gonna give you a full overview of what comes with this subwoofer, the important specs and features that you need to know about, an up-close look at the DSP and the ins and outs on the back, a quick sound demo, and then a comparison of this sub against all of the other competitors, the flagship models from the main audio brands on the market right now. Before I dive into that though, if you're not already, consider becoming a subscriber, ring the notification bell, like the video, and leave a comment. All of those things help me to continue bringing you awesome reviews each and every week. But enough about that, let's dive into taking a look at this Mackie DRM18S. Before we get into things, I did want to make it clear that I purchased the subwoofer with my own money. It was not sent to me. I wanted to add this to my personal inventory after the research that I did, which I'm going to share with you in just a minute. And I'm going to be very open and honest about the pros and the cons, what I like and what I don't like about this subwoofer, so you can hopefully make an informed decision yourself. Now, one of the things I usually do on this channel is an unboxing in my studio. This thing, as you can tell, it's sitting on the table unboxed already. It was way too big to unbox in my office. And so I've got it out here, and I'm gonna just show you what comes in the box besides the subwoofer, which came to me on a pallet from Mackie, freight shipping, very secure. You're just gonna get your user manual and your IEC standard cable right here. Nothing to it, good quality, 6 feet long probably, but that's all that's in the box, okay? Now the subwoofer itself, like I said, absolute beast. Probably one of the bigger power single 18-inch subs on the market. Dimensions wise, I have them right here. It's 23 inches wide, 23 inches high, and 31 inches deep, and comes in at 90 pounds. I can pick this sub up, I can move it small distances, or maybe like from one side of a short room to another. I would not want to carry this in and out of a venue, okay? And we'll get to that point in just a moment. Now, the sub itself is built of 18mm plywood. It's got this nice textured kind of rhino lining coat on it, and this is going to stand up to your abuse on the road. This is a pro grade subwoofer for sure. Now Mackie actually touts the increased internal volume for maximum output. That's one of the selling features, you know, physics, yada yada. Because of that, you know, it's got internal bracing inside to make sure that this stands up to the rigors of the road. Now, other features of the outside of the subwoofer, it does have handles on either side. It's worth noting something that I would maybe change up about this. I don't know if it's possible because of the internals of the sub, but the handles are not directly in the middle. They're kind of more towards the grill, and with the weight of the amplifier in the back, when you pick this up, it just wants to tilt, and it can be a little bit unwieldy. The handles themselves, there's really big wells that you can get your hand in, and you could wear gloves and get them in this. The handles feel nice. They're just not positioned in maybe the spot that I would put them, but I'm not designing speakers, so who knows. Other features of the cabinet of the sub, on top we have some cutouts for the feet to slot into, so if you want to stack multiple subwoofers, they won't slide around on top of each other. They do have these circular indentations where one sub can set on top of the other. Now there's also fly points if you want to use the optional fly bar to hang this speaker. I'm not doing that, but it is available as an option. For mobile DJs like myself and typical users, there is a standard screw-in pole mount socket on the top, so you get a much more secure, less wobbly connection if you want to mount a cabinet over the subwoofer itself. Now, something noticeably missing from the subwoofer that I really wish it had, especially with how big it is, are casters. A lot of subwoofers in this price category come with casters already on the back of the speaker. I imagine they're not too expensive to add. It would have been nice to see that. You can obviously put your own on, or you could do the route that I've taken and just pick up one of these, you know, less than $20, 1,000-pound furniture dollies. This actually fits the size of the subwoofer very well, and it could handle multiples stacked on it, but it would have just been nice to have casters from the get-go. Inside of the subwoofer is an 18-inch high excursion driver with a 2,000 watt amplifier. Now, I've preached on this channel before, watts are not a measure of volume or output. You should not compare your speakers and your subwoofers solely on watts. What's more important are the specs. In particular, when you're comparing subs, the max or peak dB SPL and the frequency extension. In the case of the DRM18S, this hits 130 35 dB max SPL and goes down to 30 hertz at the minus 10 dB point. Now, that alone in isolation might not be as helpful, but when comparing against similar subs, things in the same price range, you want to look at those two. Now, what you get on paper obviously is different from real life. Subwoofers and speakers are not just what you see on paper. When I was testing this, I did some sine wave sweeps, from 20 hertz all the way up, and I started to get kind of usable, good bass around 32 or 33. So while 30 is the minus 10 point and it's there, but it's not that loud, really 32, 33, I'm really starting to hear bass that would sound good at an event. I'm gonna flip the subwoofer around and show you the mixer section and the screen with the DSP, but before I do that, there are a few features that Mackie lists on their site that I wanted to read to you. They have impulse DSP, linear phase FIR filtering, and acoustic correction. So beyond this kind of technical jargon, the sub has a handful of useful features like cardioid mode, delay settings, and a variable crossover, which are all things that most DJs who've been doing this a little while should be familiar with. So now we're taking a look at the back end of the DRM18S. I'll flip it on so that you can see it. It's pretty simple, although most subwoofers are, because there's not really a lot of mixing that needs to be done. Over here on the right side, you've got your power switch and your IEC input. And then on this side, you've got your ins and your outs, as well as your single knob control of the full color screen. You've got two 1/4 inch XLR combo inputs right here, two direct outputs, as well as two high pass outputs. So if you want to send the crossed over signal to your tops and not give them any of the low end, you would use these guys down here. If you want to send the full signal to a second sub or multiple subs, you would go out of the direct out. Now, I'm going to zoom the camera in even further and we'll take a look right here at the display. This is the control center of the speaker. You've got a nice full color display right here that gives you a lot of information about all the settings that are active on the sub at that time. You don't really need to go into the menus if you don't want to. To the left of this kind of information display right here are two individual kind of level meters that show you what channel 1 and channel 2 are doing and how high their signals are coming, which is really nice. On the right side, you can see I've got my master volume or my master level control right there. You can go from minus 10 dB up to 0 dB, and just to the left of that is a master level meter, okay? In the center of the display, we have a quick readout of all the settings that we have activated right now, which in the case of this sub is the normal polarity. I have to keep turning the knob to keep the display from dimming, which is a nice feature. But I've got normal polarity crossed over at 80 hertz. This is a front-facing sub, and the delay is at 0 milliseconds. Okay, now if you want to change any of these settings, you have one control, which is this button right here. And another thing that I think could be changed, this is a little bit plasticky and flimsy for the level of sub that this is. I think they could have put maybe a nicer knob on here, but maybe I'm just nitpicking. If you click that, you can access the menu, okay? You've got 6 options. The main screen, which if you click again, just takes you back to where we were. You've also got the mode, the crossover, cardioid settings, delay settings, and configuration. So if we turn to the right and go to mode and click in, you can see we've got normal or invert. So if you need to switch the polarity so that it's aligned with your top speakers or your other subs, you can do that right here, okay? If you need to exit the screen, you just click again, and then it will take you back to the arrow right there. So you just rotate to the left and then click the arrow, and now you're back to the previous screen. We'll go over to crossover again. You hit enter. We've got 2 options here. If I scroll to the right, DRM top, we'll cross this over at the optimal frequency to pair with their DRM 212 or 215 tops, or you can go over to variable and click again, and then you can select a specific hertz, anywhere between probably 120, which is the top, and the bottom. So I keep it at 80, and we'll go like that. Again, scroll all the way to the left and hit enter to go back to the previous screen. Next, we've got cardioid mode. So if you want to use multiple subwoofers and decrease the bass output behind the sub on the stage, you can go to cardioid mode and just select whether your speaker is front facing or rear facing. Again, you need multiples to use this setting. Then you've got delay. If you are using different subwoofers at different distances and you need to set a delay, or you need to delay the sub with your tops, you can go into this setting. Right here, you just click, and it says 0 milliseconds. As you increase the milliseconds, it will tell you how many feet your sub is away from your tops or from your other system, or how many meters. So that's really, really nice. It just calculates that all for you. Again, I keep mine in line, so we're gonna go back to 0 and then go left and back up. The last menu is configuration. Once we enter here, we've just got a few general settings. You have 6 memory functions that you can save into the sub. So if you have venues that you go to repeatedly or settings that you like to use frequently, you can just scroll over, let me select memory, scroll over to 1, and you can either store or recall settings from that. So I've saved one into bank 1, and that's the main settings that I use that you saw before. If we keep going down, you can lock the screen with a pin. So if you are using this in cardioid mode or someone can access this and you don't want them to mess with things, you can lock the screen so no one can adjust your settings, which is really handy. Let me go back there. That's a perfect transition to our next mode, which is the backlight. I have mine on dimmer, so it will automatically dim when you're not using it, which is really handy, but you can have it set at on or turn the backlight off completely. I like the dim mode. Below that, we have the front LED. You can turn off that indicator LED or leave it on, and then you can reset the sub and check the firmware in the About section. Again, back up, and then if you just want to go back to the main screen, hit main and hit enter. And that is all of the functionality. It's a little more stripped down than the DRM tops, but there's still all of the settings that you would need for a subwoofer. So that was a quick look at the ins and the outs, as well as the screen, the DSP, the different functionalities of the subwoofer. Now I want to give you a quick sound demo just here inside the house. To preface this, I'm not a fan of YouTube sound demos at all. I don't think they're useful, but because so many people leave comments on my videos asking for them, I'm going to do that. Now, keep in mind, this is not an optimal room. It's very small. There's lots of walls. And really, by the time the audio comes into my camera, I'm going to use a Tascam recorder, gets edited, exported, uploaded, compressed, comes through your speakers or headphones. It's not going to be an accurate representation of this. Go find one in person if you can. Not everyone has that capability though. So here's a quick demo of a few different royalty-free tracks for you to listen to. So there was a brief demo of the subwoofer. I don't think it's that useful. Maybe you got something out of it. What's more important though is the comparison of the sub versus other speakers, and I guess my subjective experience having tried a lot of different subwoofers. Now, when you're shopping for a speaker or sub, the best thing to do is obviously to go listen to it in person and test it if you can. Not everyone has a store in their town where they can do that. And if you do have a Guitar Center or something like that, or a local audio store, they may not carry Mackie, or they may not carry this particular sub being the flagship model. So you sometimes have to rely on specs, which I have done many times in the past. So I'm gonna give you a quick comparison of the DRM18S against some of the other popular flagship models from the well-known audio companies. I'm gonna compare 4 key factors: the peak dB SPL, the price, the weight, and the frequency extension, not necessarily in that order, okay? So starting off with the DRM18S, this goes up to, like I said, 135 dB max SPL. It goes down to 30 hertz at the minus 10 dB point. It weighs 90 pounds and it comes in at $1,199. Going up a few $100 is the Yamaha DXS18XLF, excuse me. It goes up to 136 dB peak SPL, down to 30 hertz as well. It weighs 108 pounds and it comes in at a street price of $1,699. The JBL SRX818SP has a 135 dB peak, 29 hertz extension on the low end, weighs 87 pounds and comes in at $1,979. The QSC KS118 goes up to 136 dB peak, goes down to 35 hertz on the low end, weighs 104 pounds, and goes for a street price of $1,999. And last but not least, the ETX18SP from Electro-Voice goes up to 135 dB peak SPL, goes down to 28 Hertz on the low end, weighs 114 pounds, and has a street price of $1,999. You'll notice that I skipped over some of the more middle range products from JBL and EV, like the ELX or EKX or the JBL PRX, and that's just simply because, one, they're not the flagship model of their respective brand, and two, they just don't really line up spec-wise with the DRM18S. In my mind, the value for output to price, the ratio is very clear. The winner is the DRM18S. In my mind, it gives you so much output, so much volume, a very robust wooden cabinet, plenty of configuration in the back, at a price that's hundreds of dollars lower than the other models. Now, obviously, output isn't all that matters, but having tested this sub, it's extremely musical. It punches, it's not boomy, it's not muddy. Everything that I would want a sub to do, it does. And you could easily purchase multiples of these for less than the cost of a lower amount of multiples from a different brand. If you're on a budget, but you still need something beefy, it's a great option. Mackie is known for that, and they've done it here with the DRM18S. So hopefully this video has been helpful to you. I really appreciate you watching. If you want to, like I said, leave a comment, subscribe, like the video. All of that helps the algorithm out. I'll include a link down in the description and in the comments for more information on the subwoofer. You can check it out there. Continue to support the channel, and I would very much appreciate it. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.